About 3 or 4 years ago, I came to the office to help just with some industrial projects, kind of do some takeoffs. And at the time, everything was on paper. And helped with a few of those projects. And then next thing you know, I'm estimating more, doing commercial. And here I've been now, one of the estimators there. And I never really planned to do it, it just kind of happened. But one thing I noticed when we were there is everything was done on paper. And it seemed like a huge waste because you did the jobs and there's a large percentage of the time you don't get the job. You got these piles of prints everywhere. We had a software known as Live Count that worked really well with AccuBid, but because of licensing requirements and costs, we switched over and started using Bluebeam. And that's kind of what this next hour will be about, is how I've taken and the processes we've developed at Capital and use them to utilize our takeoffs, ways we can share that with either general contractors or some of our subs or even vendors. How many people in here are in the electrical industry? Do you guys still do paper or electronic takeoffs for the most part? So most everybody here does electronic. Do you guys use Bluebeam or?
Conest, McCormick.
You use McCormick for your takeoff?
Conest. We started McCormick and now we're using Conest.
Okay. So is there anybody in here that does paper takeoff for just any other contractor? All right. Well, Bluebeam, how familiar is everybody here with the Bluebeam program? I know it's relatively popular, but there's still some people that either don't know. To me, the program's huge. There's a lot you can do with it, and I'm constantly learning from other people, new tricks, new things we can do. Now, one thing we noticed with Live Count was it was kind of hard to share the PDFs with, through the company or either with vendors or even with generals. Like, for example, this drawing here, we were asked by a GC to give a budget for some parking lot lighting. We didn't know what light types there were. We didn't really know how many, but able to take Bluebeam, put our markups on there, and it's really nice because we can take this and then we send out our budget proposal. We can send this drawing along with that. That way they see exactly what we're pricing out. They see exactly, what we're trying to provide. Plus, I can send this to the vendors and say, here's how many light fixtures we're looking at. Give us a type. It's a great way to share documents with everyone out there. Haven't really noticed any comments to doing electronic takeoffs. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on it, but we feel like it's really essentially the best way to do it. Multiple monitors. One thing I try to show people is, and I imagine you guys are the same way, is it is best to have, get this photo pulled up, a multiple monitor setup. I also, with Bluebeam, I'm able to take the markups off of this screen and I can pull it over to a separate monitor. So as I'm doing my takeoffs on my larger monitor, I can see my markup list off to the left on this upper screen right here. That allows that takeoff screen where the prints are, of course, to be larger, and it kind of gives you, a good way to, instead of toggling back and forth between screens, you can just go right there. With having the multiple monitors down here, we use AccuBid, so we've got that program down there, and I can see exactly, and I'll go through this, later on, kind of exactly where my takeoffs are on the prints. Here's my markup, and then as it goes into AccuBid. has anybody here has anybody used Bluebeam for any kind of, takeoff? I know a lot of people use it for markups, but actually start doing takeoffs, start logging what you're doing, and kind of, set it up so that it is an actual takeoff software. Well, hey, as it kind of said in the course description, if you guys, if there's something else that you guys have that I'm not doing, man, raise your hand. We'll kind of turn it into an open discussion, because I think we can all maybe pick up something from everyone in here. Yes.
Does your Bluebeam tie to your AccuBid and enter it? So if you counted that 2x4 A fixture, do you assign it to assembly and does it automatically put it into your AccuBid?
No,
Okay.
they don't tie together. Live count does with AccuBid, but again, there's a significant cost on the licensing fees with live count, and live count works great. I mean, I think live count does a better job of finding the images on the drawing, and it will tie directly to AccuBid. If you click on that takeoff item in AccuBid, it will find it on the drawings if they're linked. But we just found that there's more abilities to share the documents when we do especially with all of our prefab that we do. We're able to take our takeoffs on the drawings and roll that stuff into prefab if we get the job. Whereas we have a hard time doing that with live count. We'd always have to print something to a PDF and such. But we kind of developed a little bit of a method to make sure that, as we're doing these takeoffs, instead of having the prints where everybody's used to just, you highlight when you got it in and all that, kind of put some steps in place to make sure we have these items in the bid and we're accounted for. It gives us the ability, towards the end to see, hey, here's what I've got, here's what we're leaving out, or here's what needs to still go into the bid. So just to kind of run through a couple quick items here. I'm assuming everyone knows how to use the search feature. You get the rectangle, pull up the light, you got your 2x2, and now we have noticed that different drawings are cleaner than others. Some will take forever to find it. Others may find a half dozen of them, and maybe not the rest. So we've always got to keep an eye for that. It depends on how they come in from the either the engineers or the architects. And you can click on the first one, roll down. It's the same kind of keystroke with the shift key. It'll highlight them all. Now, one thing we've developed is a toolbox for certain colors, certain shapes, for particular items. Now, we don't have 12 different colors in there for lights, but we'll use like a square for a lay-in, or a 2x4, or like a circle for either a can light or a pendant light, and we can kind of grow that and adjust it from there. But we'll hit apply count measurement, click on the lighting, because that's built into our toolbox, and we got it on there. Go through, do a review. Of course, this is where it depends on what the fixture schedule is. If that AE is an actual emergency fixture or if it's part of an emergency circuit. I'm just going to act like it's just the A's. Now, on this markup list right here, we've condensed it down to just being the page label, the subject, the label, account, a color, check mark, log, measurement, layer, price drop, etc. So one thing that we found, like you were saying about AccuBid, if it ties in, is once we do our takeoff, we can give it the label, just A, and at this point, we'll continue to count, continue to count, continue to count. When we start to put it in the program is where we'll utilize this check mark and the lock. We'll hit both of them once it's in the program. That way it can tell us, once we have, we get some of these drawings, I'll show them later on, that may have like 30 markups along there. And we can filter with, through here, on this filter, either all locked or unlocked, and it'll show me all the ones that are unlocked. So that's been a great way that we can go back in and verify and double check and not leave something out of our estimate. You got so many takeoffs on there, it's really easy to miss a couple here and there. Any questions so far?
How do you account for if one of those rooms is an alternate or not part of the base bid?
One thing that I've not yet, so we're running 2019, and one of the updates that we found out was I think it's called either squares, or, I don't know if anybody's messed with it, they have, please speak up, but you can set up another area within the document. It's almost like a viewpoint. Has anybody ever messed with the viewpoints on the drawings? So with a viewpoint, you can, essentially, if you get a drawing and you have a 1/4 inch scale on one part of it, and then maybe down here it's a 1/2 inch scale for this, blow up of the room, you can set a viewpoint in just that area and establish a scale just for that one location. I've not yet messed with it very much because I haven't ran into many drawings that have that have had just like an alternate for just a location like that. But you can set up a rectangular area, and that will come up on its other takeoff. One thing I've done for alternates is I will take a drawing and, I'm just going to say this one right here is going to have an alternate. Call this little locker area an alternate. I'll take that drawing. If you right click it, you can copy it, paste it right below, and I'll rename that drawing E110, alternate 1. So that way, when I go to this drawing here, and I would count I'll take both of these, delete them out, and let's just say hypothetically, these 4 fixtures right here were a part of an alternate, maybe a different type. I'll go to my toolbox, grab my little lighting can, hit escape, that pulls me out of that takeoff right there. I now know that on that page, I've got 4 fixtures that are part of an alternate. And if I just want to verify that and make sure something doesn't get, maybe confused, I'll go to the other drawing and maybe highlight that spot, do a call out next to it, alternate fixtures on next page. But like I said, 2020 came out with an update. They do it's a square or something. You can take that area and give it its own name on that drawing, and it'll come up differently on the markup list. I just haven't had a chance to mess with it yet. Go ahead.
Is that just a layer that you can create within that drawing, and then you can click on and off on that layer?
For the alternate or for that new?
For if you wanted to say this is 1/4 inch scale, this is 1/2 inch scale, shouldn't you just do a layer on it? And then
No, you can't do it on layer, because when you set the scale to the drawing, it is doing it for that drawing. The layer is just nothing but markups. That's all it is. It's just kind of taking that markup and hiding it from it. So let me see if I can remember. I wasn't expecting to get a question past viewpoint, but if you bear with me for a little bit. It's been a fat minute since I've done one, but I've not done it yet on this newer system. We just got a few weeks ago. They changed the way you do the scale on the Okay, so here I can add a viewpoint and select a region to define a viewpoint. Okay, I'm just gonna say it's this spot right here. And then within that viewpoint, I can establish what scale I want. Let's say we're going to make it 1/2 inch equals a foot applied. So now this area in here, whenever I do any kind of takeoffs for, conduit, whether I'm, I guess it is mostly conduiting, if there's any grounding going in there or such, this right here will pull up as 1/2 inch. This other stuff will pull up as 1/4 inch. A lot of times I've gotten drawings from, one thing I do when we get a set of drawings is I automatically go through and flatten them because I've received drawings from GCs that will have different viewpoints on it and it kind of mess everything up. Or every little mark on there is some kind of call out. So that's one thing that we try to do is make sure we, hire some new, younger PMs, so trying to get them working with it. Another thing we tell everyone that one problem we had is we'll start messing with a set of drawings and then maybe somebody else will mess with it. Well, now they've kind of affected your markups and you're doing all this stuff on there. So one thing we found is, since we got shared folders and we got 3 or 4 people estimating sometimes, is take that set of drawings, do a save as, put your initials on the end of it. That way they know that's your drawings, these are your drawings, these are my drawings, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of helps keep everything clean. I don't know if you guys have ran into anything like that or do something similar or not. Okay, so like I was saying, with this, I'm assuming everybody here uses multiple monitors for setups. Do you guys do the split markup, so, pulling it off the drawing, or does everyone know how to do that? Can't really do it here because, of course, just that big screen. But this little square right here, when it's highlighted, grab a hold of that and just drag it over to your screen and it'll drop it in right there. Every time you open up Bluebeam, those markups will be right there. It'll look just like it did on that photo I shared. To get it back onto your Bluebeam drawing, when you're set up like this, all you gotta do is get on this little tab right here that's on that little Bluebeam drop, drag it back down. It's just like where you can move all these panels around here whatever you want to do with it, right? And you can drop that wherever you want. Bam, drop it right down there at the bottom of that panel. So, and honestly, that's something, everything I've done here has all been self-taught. Most of the guys in the office are the same way. We just stumbled on it one time accidentally. So, it's really, really, really handy. Any questions so far about some of this?
What did you guys use before you started using Bluebeam?
It was just paper takeoff. It was, print the drawings, sit there with a clicky counter and the highlighter and the roller. Roller. I'm like, shit, what did I just do? I forgot, you can't see it. You're just sitting there doing this all the time. So, and there's still people, every once in a while I hear click, 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 click. So, yeah, that's what we used. Like I was saying before, we had the live count, and slowly we're kind of migrating to, the hardest thing is trying to get something standardized to where it works for everyone, because I will bid a set of drawings and then give it off to the PMs, so that things are clear to them. Anybody use the toolbox much when they're doing takeoffs? Anybody have anything, see anything different than, like, say, what we have here, or is it relatively the same? So the other thing that's nice, we've noticed, is with these the polylink, and this newer version allowed us to do more on the rise and the drop on So, for example, if I was in here, of course you click on your poly length. This new version also won't let you do a takeoff without a scale being set. I'm just going to call this one 1/4 inch. Of course, you know, you hit that shift key, so you got a straight line that moves over. Double click it. Now, this is something that we noticed was different either in the 19 or the 20 update, is the fact that we can, this little screen, I'm kind of spoiled because that monitor is like a 48-inch monitor. It's pretty nice. So we can go here, and everybody knows with conduit takeoff, you got to go up to the panel and check your architecturals, kind of see what ceiling height is, everything. And if this run here is going back to the panel, I can, put in my 20 feet there, and it's not going to affect, the rest of them. So as I'm doing a home run takeoff, I can just punch in at 20 feet to 20 feet. But if I've got one that's got 3 number 12s in it, but it's not a home run, like say this one right here, it leaves that 20 foot off, and that's going to automatically add that into my conduit totals. And with this newer version, it'll take this measurement out here, and you just go to precision, take it down to an inch, within an inch, and it'll change it real easy. This separate, now we noticed also on the scale, the newer version changed, that now you can punch in the scale and hit the apply to a page range, and it will go through and set that scale for everything in the drawing. Or if you're just, like for us, we're just really concerned with the electricals, we can just go a certain number of drawings and just do those pages. Has anybody ever done a rectangular search for multiple pages? Okay, so let me find. Bear with me here as I get some drawings ready. So I'm going to zoom in and say on this fixture right here, I'll get my rectangle on it. Okay, so that's picking it up, and right here you can see current document, current page, all documents, etc. If you go over these tabs here, you've got E201, 202. If I hit Shift, it'll pick up these 4 drawings. So I go back to this drop down, it'll ask for selected pages right here. And that will allow me to search just those. I can now search 4 pages at once for the on the writing instead of just 1 page, go to the next page, 1 page, go to the next page. And it'll pull all the results up, right here through all 4 of those pages. Found that was a newer update on it. Something else that we've noticed that we like about it is, for example, on our 1-line diagram here, once the panel boards are taken off, say this MSB1, we can easily drop our square on it with a certain color, drag across. That one's blue. We got it taken off. We got this elevator control panel. Put in the estimate taken care of. Click on it, do a copy, paste. Yeah. Now, if I'm helping, if there's three of us working on it, someone can take this drawing now and see that I've picked up, you know, these panel boards, these disconnects. We can all kind of work off the same drawing that way by, you know, highlighting the feeders going into it. We'll use a call out and we'll put the feeder link next to that. That way it's all on this page. You were asking earlier about tying into AccuBid. Well, we know on AccuBid, this drawing being E102, if we put everything in AccuBid under the drawing of E102, we can go to this page and we have all of our feeders labeled right there. Everything's highlighted. We can go back into it again. We can pass that off to the PM. The PM can see the feeder links that are on there, and he can use that when he's either building a schedule out, or the GF can use it to kind of, you know, scheduling and ordering material, you know, getting pricing. So it's, again, being able to share that document between multiple people is really the biggest benefit, because if it was paper drawings, somebody's taking it, rolling it out on paper.
Question.
Yeah.
If you're working with three different guys, do you each have your own color? Or do you use consistently the same color and say, this is the markup that says that this is done?
We've standardized colors.
Okay, so this means that this takeoff is done?
Yes.
Doesn't matter who did it?
Correct.
You just shows that this, of the 207 pages that you gotta go through, this one's 3/4 done?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, to kind of go back to the point of the filter screen, by doing it, when we do the check mark and the lock means that it has been put in AccuBid.
Yeah, that page is done.
That item is done. And we've ran into this before, where we're in the middle of the day, we're doing something, we're putting stuff in the bid, and something comes up, you gotta answer a phone call, you go back, it's lunch, where was I? You can pull it up, and this is just an example. I can see here that I've got some items that aren't highlighted, that aren't locked out. And, well, hey, here's some aux sensors. Looks like before I left, I didn't get all of the aux sensors. By using the check mark, the reason why we went with the check and the lock is there's times I've noticed that I will think I have all the counts done, and I start putting stuff in there, and I go over the drawings, and like, there's a couple of receptacles I missed. Well, I don't want to stop what I'm doing right now and create another hole, so I'll take that item and I'll unlock it. It's checked. I know I need to go back and view it and you know, look into that. I know I can pull up the drawing number on AccuBid, the fact that it's under branch power, and it just gives us a way to double check and verify things. And this is the other thing we developed to kind of add on to what you were saying. We created the toolbox for fire alarm, for example. When we're doing the takeoff because we're not pricing out, we're not doing the bid for the actual fire alarm item. We've got our ISG department to do that. But of course, we're responsible for the rough end. We really typically have a ceiling device and a wall device. That's it. So we have a red circle for a ceiling and a red square for a wall device. We created the toolbox over time, and we share that, throughout the estimators. The PMs have it. That way, if they open up the drawing and they see these items on there, they're just automatically going to know what that is.
Do you have the exterior bell and strobe?
Just care that it's a wall device.
Okay, it's wall device.
Because all we care about on our end is the rough end.
Yeah.
It's a wall device. Now, one thing that we notice is when you're doing, like, say, the lighting and the power, is to change the opacity on the mark. Change that filter. So we had a problem with kind of reviewing things. So in our toolbox, we took this item. If I go to settings, I just changed the size of it and I changed it to 80%. That way when we're doing the lights, or if we're doing the, and it was mostly for lighting because that takeoff mark could cover up the label. And we noticed that when we would do a count, when Bluebeam would see the item and it puts this blue square on everything, we wouldn't have a hard time knowing if that item's been double counted or not.
Yeah.
Well, when we changed it to 80%, we could look at it and you could tell that that one had, you know, 2 of them on top of it, so that fixture's been counted twice. Not a big deal on receptacles, but $1,500 custom fixture, you don't want to be 3 or 4 high on it. Anybody do anything different on their takeoffs, toolbox, or anybody got any questions so far? Yeah.
Have you tried doing that in a studio session instead of having individual files that everybody has? So then you can each mark it up together?
We've not yet messed with the studio yet. There's usually 3 of us that are estimating, and Tucker Kelsey, our director of pre-con, he's always handling the one line and the gear, and then I'm always taking care of the branch, the lighting, and other things. We've used studio between like the PM and some other guys in the office at times, but we've not used that yet in our office. Have you guys done that, or?
Yeah, we've used it for a little bit of, you know, it is like an internal takeoff after, you know, construction's already started, or using it in construction. But it's just another option, and then it's nice because if I click on, you know, I'm counting one of these, and somebody else wants it, they can see if I can count it, and it says who did it. So that
Yeah.
helps prevent you from double dipping or, you know, something like that.
Yeah, we've tried to kind of just set it up as, I'm taking this, he's taking this, we just, you know, we're training another young estimator. He's handling this, we each got our own drawings, I can, you know, extract the pages from his set of drawings, put it into mine if I'm doing the takeoff, you know, if I'm putting it into the bid. So that's kind of the method that we've set up with it. Any other questions so far?
What about, so like when you had to go search on 4 pages for the A1 light fixture,
Mhm.
and it goes through there. You got an area that's an alternate, so it's not supposed to be on the base bid, it's just on the alternate. You have to manually go back in there and take those back out so that they're not on your count. If you don't want to do the base bid.
Yes, but again, that's where and alternates are weird because none of them are really the same. Sometimes you get a whole page that's alternate, or sometimes you just get a whole section of a building or a room. It's not like a replacement. The alternates, we've always had to just kind of take those as they come along. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, there's some times where you gotta sit there and just, but I'm assuming, does everybody know how to use the multiple delete? Where you can delete more items than one at once? See if I can pull it up on this one. So I should be able to right click across these, take those 2 right there, right click it, and delete power from group, and it just deletes those 2. So, like I said with the alternates, sometimes you just gotta let it count them all. If it is a room, that you can just grab hold of those four and delete them. Again, alternates, I've not messed with that area much where you can kind of create that own square within a drawing. But, you know, that is one thing that we just now found out about it about a month ago, to be honest with you. So, but again, we'll just kind of highlight an area. If we need to put hashes on it, create its own drawing. If it's on its own drawing, I'll just leave that drawing out of the counts. Any other questions so far? Does this kind of look pretty standard with what some of you guys do as far as the takeoffs go?
So what do you do on receptacles? That's one thing I've always been curious about, like how much do they change on those? Do you actually take off like the MC cable between them?
The way we do our estimate is we have assemblies built into our AccuBid file. And on this part right here, there's 115 duplex receptacles. Everything in AccuBid is built off NECA standards and built off industrial averages, essentially. So we won't take the time to draw the MC from receptacle to receptacle to receptacle to receptacle. We will count 115 receptacles. We have an assembly in our AccuBid file. We pull up that assembly and we'll punch in 115 of those.
And your assembly has your MC with your two connectors built in?
Yes.
and
The
everything?
assembly has, I think it's like, forget the amount of footage of MC, it was an odd number, but whatever, it's built off stuff out there that I don't understand. It's got our box, it's got our receptacle, it's got our cover plate, it has everything in it. And with the prefab we're doing now, we've actually created our own assemblies to kind of match what's going on in our prefab shop. And, you know, when you see here, that's why we have the GFI, the double duplex, the regular duplexes with those assemblies. We'll punch it in, and it's just one assembly at a time, one assembly at a time.
You do that for EMT as well?
EMT, we will draw out our home runs. I've got a good drawing that's kind of an example of that. EMT, we still draw out our home runs. Of course, it's all kind of job dependent. Everybody kind of knows you get some jobs that just want you to run into an area and you can take all your MC to it. This was KC Pet Project, and this line right here is the conduit that we have running everywhere. 1/2 inch with number 12s in it. We got our light fixtures. We have our switch counts. That's going in a single gang block. Again, switches, we use assemblies for those. Conduit is just a takeoff. Everything's all vertical. I didn't have to worry about all the, you know, the rise and the drops because it's just conduit for lighting. Per the spec, everything had to be in conduit with boxes and a fixture width dropping out of it. You know, it was above a hard that drop ceiling. This is what they wanted. So just, again, we'll use like 3/4, either 3 number 12s, 7 number 12s, kind of, you know, number 10s, 1 inch for number 8s, number 10s, etc. You get the markup on there. We found that we'll just take all of our conduit right here and we just group it together instead of having all these individual runs that we got to put in. We know a count. We've established the fact that the fixture needs a box in the build of the fixture on AccuBid, so we don't have to worry about all those little counts. The connectors are already built in there on those fixtures. The conduit takeoff is literally just conduit. We don't have to worry about all these other counts, you know, for each individual fixture, because that's all built into the fixture. Any other questions?
So you're running your branch on run
Mhm.
out, can you go ahead and set that up so like if you were doing like all your branch on runs at one time, so we can take it out. Instead of having to go in and add the rise, come out of the panel, get that out, can you set that so that it starts out with that? I can put 15 feet, I can get 15 feet in there.
Yes, you can set that up, so it's essentially on this tab over here. And that's another thing I didn't really touch upon is we ended up creating our own profile for estimating. I don't really like the estimating profile that was in Bluebeam with the switch symbol and some of this other stuff. I think we started off with what was known as the office profile, which was pretty simple. There wasn't a lot of things in it, and we just kind of built it on from there. So we had the measurement tab here on this settings. Right there, you can preset some of the, how you want it to be. If you want that rise and that run in it, the color, and at the bottom, it's because they're all grouped together. If you were to set up one line and just do one line across there and give it a color, that's another thing we noticed is with the different colors, going back to what this gentleman here talked about for standardization. This color's for home runs, we'll use this color. A lot of times we'll use red for any kind of emergency lighting. With all the hospitals that we end up looking at, you can set that default. So if we know we're going to start doing a bunch of home runs, we'll set it up, set the default, and it'll establish that. And then once we're just doing branch conduit, heading out everywhere, set it up differently. Just kind of maintain that. Hey, I'm doing 7 number 10s right now. I'm doing 7 number 12s right now. Okay, this area right here from this big old dog kennel, that was all a ½ inch with some number 12s in it. So we set that default and just started drawing lines across it. And I'm sure you guys are aware, if you've done enough of these, it's nice to be able to take this drawing, this markup right here. The guys in the trailer can pull it up on the TV and at least get an idea of what was going on with everything. I didn't think I'd actually get questions. This is nice. I just figured I'd been here talking for an hour and a half. Anybody else got any questions? Anything you guys do or anything different maybe that you want to share with everybody else?
How do you differentiate on your runs the normal power versus emergency power?
So,
Or do you just pull 4 number 12s through the entire thing?
no, with St. Luke's, for example, we price a lot of work to them. All of their lighting is on an emergency generator, life safety generator. That's where the 2 different colors come in. We'll draw a red, we'll do a red takeoff line across there for that to know that that's the emergency lighting. And then blue, or forget which one it is, will be for the regular lighting. So that way someone can see we've got 2 different ones right there. This particular project, they were actually they were fixtures with a battery backup. So they were on the same circuit, they all had a battery backup on it. So we were allowed to just shoot it all in one conduit, since they weren't 2 separate systems.
To save time, is it possible to take, so, if you're running your branch line out, and you're gonna have emergency, and then you're gonna normal power, you just copy paste, and change it.
Yeah.
Not redo, click, click, click.
Yeah, I don't have all our, the Garmin drawings from the office renovation that we got, but that was one of those jobs where it was really a copy and paste. This set of offices here was the same as this drawing here, which was the same as this drawing. And it's like 700 offices in this place, so there was nothing that different. You knew the conduit runs coming out of the panel, going over. It was just a copy and paste. The 3rd floor of that building wasn't drawn yet. The GC said, can we get a budget? There was no drawing. We had no idea. They said it's going to mimic what's on the 2nd floor. We were able to take all of those takeoffs. I grouped every takeoff to get highlighted it, grouped it all together, copied that, pasted to their third floor, just generic demo drawing. They saw our takeoff that it was based off. We were able to give them like an itemized, hey, this is what it's based on. You can see how many duplex receptacles we're basing this on, how many GFIs are there. We're going off the same lighting because it's the same type of break room. We're assuming that you're only having 7 extra large conference rooms, but if there's more, you know, we're gonna be off. But we could get our conduit pretty much the same because the electrical rooms are stacked. So we can take all those takeoffs, copy it, paste it, boom, put it right in there. And for us, it seems like it works nice. I don't know, I mean, there's some GCs in here. I don't know if anybody kind of shares budget drawings with you guys, kind of, hey, here's our takeoff, here's what it's based on, but we try to, if it is like a budgetary item, just to give someone an idea of what it is, not just a scope letter of price. But yeah, I mean, copy and paste works real well if you have areas that are repetitive. And this job was a great example. There was another one. We turned in a price a couple of years ago on the Cerner towers. There was a lot of copy and paste there because there were a lot of similarities. The electrical rooms were all the same. It's the exact same layout. Yeah, we could have just put it in AccuBid, counted it up, but it's so easy to do these electronic takeoffs and paste it on there. Any questions? So one thing we found, little blue beam thing here, I don't know if you guys are aware of these, so find it first. So you get some of these drawings and they're all labeled like 16, 4, 5, 7. Does everybody know how to put the automatic, to put the page labels on those? I'm assuming so? Cool. That's just one of those things that for us, we just kind of stumble upon, or someone else has found it. We try to share with, you know, within the company, different things people pick up on.
Talking about creating page limits, right?
Yes. How you can capture one of them, it'll automatically put it through. And it's the same way with the scale. You know, this drawing here says scale not set. Again, you can just go to preset, 1/4 inch, and apply the page range, all pages. Or if I wanted to, I could just go over here, select these 4 pages, and it'll just put the scale of those pages. But right there, it just automatically sets the scale of everything. We noticed they changed that on a couple updates ago. Is everybody here running 2019 or older on Bluebeam? 2019. Oh, you do? Well, damn, some of this stuff I'm showing you not really gonna work, but the 19's nice. They changed that scale setup. They changed the way you can search the multiple pages. You can do the multiple view. They have that. They have that option of setting the range for that we've used for. It's been brought up about alternates. So this drawing right here is one that I've used before. These and stuff in instructional drawings. When we first started kind of diving into this, you know, not all the colors match up. It's was really just kind of used as an instructional, you know, just kind of show people a little bit how it can, you know, what all we can do with it. Again, we use this to kind of show an example. If you just were to do a dot, you're not going to know what the fixture is. That's when we started using that, you know, toning the coat color down on it, setting the toolbox, and whatnot. So the other thing, another method that we established is, and this kind of goes back to what someone else was talking about, if the drawing is done, we like to highlight that drawing number at the bottom of the page. Got a couple more old school guys that want to be able to see that, oh, hey, that drawing's highlighted. Because when we go through the bid reviews on the larger jobs, we've got it pulled up on a large TV, and we're sitting there going through there instead of the classic page turn where they can see the page numbers highlighted. We're trying to do a similar page turn, and by just doing a simple highlight on that page number, kind of shows that, hey, that drawing's done, that drawing's taken care of. Again, we still have the check mark and the lock, but again, we set that up through kind of doing our custom profile. Does anybody else do anything different to make sure that that drawing, everything on that takeoff is accounted for? Anybody have any other ways that they just verify that things are taken care of?
We have our estimators highlight the notes to verify that they've read them, they understand them. And so if we get to a page and the note hasn't been highlighted, then we
Yeah.
can say, all right, why isn't this highlighted? Did you have a question on it? And then we also go, if there's some notes in there that, might be just for information only electrical, but is really mechanical scope, then we'll highlight it in red to note that we're either gonna exclude it or it's not pertaining to our scope.
So you do a different color highlight if, like you say, if you're excluding it or if it doesn't pertain to us.
Yeah, or if it needs to be a specific inclusion, we'll highlight green, so when we do our page flip, then we can see, hey, we need to put this on proposal.
And I'm sure most people are aware that you go to this markdown screen, and sometimes you can end up on the notes with 30 highlight lines. You can grab all those, group it together, and it's just one highlight. Now, one thing that we noticed that was newer about this version, I think I can do it on a highlight, is, yes, I can flatten just that highlight.
And you can also do that in the audit trail as well,
Yes.
down below.
But that's something that we noticed you couldn't do even in, I don't think in 2018. Or maybe you can, I'm not certain. But with this right here, it's showing that highlight's flattened. We don't got to worry, it's not going to pull up on our markup list and kind of clutter up this screen right here. I don't particularly mess with layers a whole lot. Mostly because if I've got a page that's getting cluttered, either, sometimes like these particular drawings, they put the telecom on the same drawings as the power. So I'll just take a page, copy it, paste it, and it may still be E201, but next to it I'll put telecom. And I don't like messing with layers much because the way they get toggled on and off, and you don't know if it's been taken off, and it's something you gotta check. Do you guys mess with layers, or much luck with that? It's kind of a little bit what I've gotten before to talk to people is that layers can be a little bit cumbersome.
We do, just not on Blue Beam.
Oh, do you? Which one?
These are listed on screen.
Oh, yeah. Something that's a little bit off topic. They're doing a Blue Beam, I don't know if everybody knows this, but US CAD, I think it is doing sponsoring a Blue Beam class towards the end of February. I think it's at the Marriott in Oakland Park. It's like an all-day deal. The description said, even if you know a little bit about it, there's supposed to be a large presentation on doing takeoffs and studio and things. So I don't know how much y'all will be interested in that, but it's out there. I think it's February 27th. I received an email about it. Any other questions? Anybody else got anything?
So you get your takeoff done and you've got it in your audit trail here. You have that pulled up on a different monitor or whatnot. So what's the process for you of taking this and putting it into AccuBid or another estimating system?
So, what I typically do is I go page by page. For example, this one right here, I'll do all my devices before I do my conduit. I always tell people I'm lazy, so what I'll do is I'll get the first page set up, E301, and I've got, so here I've got GFIs, I got duplex, and I got some telecom wall devices. So I'm just worried about power. Now, kind of go back a little bit. We found that we like to set the subject up to be what the takeoff is going to be, whether it's going to be like branch conduit or lighting. In AccuBid, it's called a system. So what system is that going to be? Is it distribution feeders? That's what we want our subject to be. The label we use to match what our takeoff is going to be. And our takeoff is in that bottom screen that will have, you know, our receptacle assemblies going down through there. So I'll punch in the GFI, I'll punch in the duplex, I'll go through. Didn't have any quads, not that big of a deal. I'll copy those, paste them into my AccuBid file, and then I'll come back to this next page, I'll change the page, and then I'll just change the quantities. So I'm not toggling through the program as much. And as I punch those in there, like I said, I check mark and I hit the lock button. That way I know those are taken care of. So a lot of times when as I'm doing branch, all these devices will be punched in there, but I won't show the conduit in there yet because it's just that's another takeoff in AccuBid, other, you know, line items we gotta go through. So I'll say that for something else, knowing that with this lock and check assembly, I'll know exactly those are in. And as I'm going through the bid, or as I'm going, you know, through the drawings and putting it into the bid, I'll use this filter right here. So as they go in there, and once I lock it, it disappears. And then the next one disappears. So the next thing you know, my markup screen might start off being, you know, 40 items long, but it just starts to shrink because the only thing I'm seeing on there are the items that are unlocked. It's a great way to kind of provide some kind of like a double check system. I took one of these, I came to this estimating thing about 3 years ago, and I sat in an electrical estimating one like this, and the guy asked how many people did electric takeoffs. And it was me and one other person that raised their hand. And it was a class as big as this one. Everybody else in there, they all did paper takeoffs. So when they got a hold of me to kind of set this up, I was like, yeah, I can explain electronic takeoffs because that's what we do. And when I took it, nobody did it. I come in here today, and that was about 3 years ago. There may be a couple people in here that did do electrical takeoffs. So to me, it seems like it's really changed in the past few years of doing the electronic takeoffs, not using paper, not having a big pile of waste, which, I mean, it's cool. Like I said, the description was, hey, open discussion, if anybody has anything that they do that they want to share, you know, throw it out there. Because this was all just kind of trial and error, us, you know, me particularly sitting in the office, as we're doing it, figuring out a way what works best. I mean, I got the whole check mark and lock thing came about because I did forget to put something in the bid. It wasn't huge. I mean, it was, you know, 500 feet of conduit and some number 6 of those things. But, you know, I thought I had a process down. to doing all this stuff. And, you know, I did. And so that's for, okay, how am I gonna make sure, because that's what I like about live count, is everything was connected between there. One was tied to the other, and I think McCormick works the same way. But yeah, I got a little bit burned with that one. Like I said, it was I think it was like a $500,000 project, so it wasn't huge, but I mean, I did the takeoff, I had it on there, and it just didn't get put in. So I didn't want it to be something much larger, and everything here is just trial and error. You know, they said, hey, establish some colors and establish a little bit of a process for counting receptacles. We figured with lighting, there's so many different types of lights. You can't catch them all. Same way with lighting control. Anymore, I think most everybody's kind of familiar with like the watt stopper. All that really is just a Cat 5 going from here to up and out. You don't really need anything particular. We consider that just a wall device. So I see through here that for lighting, I've got a wall device and a ceiling arc sensor. Well, if it's a wall device, I've got an assembly built in my temporary assemblies on AccuBid. When I click on the wall device, it'll pull up it on the drawings. I can see that it's a switch, or what kind of switch it is, because our lighting control always comes lot priced. So we're not buying individual, we don't need to know the individual price of that switch or that aux sensor. There may be 6 different types of dimming switches. We don't need it. I don't really care what those are. I just got a wall device truck in, and I need to make sure I've got time to run a cable. So by just keeping it simple and having a wall device and a ceiling aux sensor, which is the same kind of work as if it's a photo sensor or if it's a light harvesting sensor. It doesn't need to be. I was telling this new kid we got, you don't need a lot of items here. There's really only 2 or 3 items in lighting control that you're worried about. There's only 2 items that I really care about for fire alarm. I got ceiling devices and wall devices. If there's something different, I use the wall device count, little takeoff. I'll use it even for like tamper switches. Because all I got to do when I drop that on there is go either in my markup list or over in settings, and I can just change that wall device to tamper switch. And then I know that it's a tamper switch and I got something else there. But I don't need to clutter my toolbox up with all these different items. Well, any questions? Again, any comments? Again, that's, the overview rundown, I should say, of, what we do for estimating, and that's our takeoff process. By using the toolbox, we keep everything standardized. Having standardized colors for the one lines, if it's been taken off yet, if it hasn't been. We get some drawings where the piece of gear is existing, so we don't have anything to do with this. Of course, it won't have the color, but by establishing all those colors and establishing just that process, that keeps it simple and allows us to hand it off to the PMs. We've even had, I've even had the PM pull up my counts and order his device plates off of it. He can go through there, he can filter out, he can sort. He knows that all my stuff for branch power is going to be under that power tab, under that power subject. So he knows that he can click on this. He can go to power, and then he can see the GFI, he can see duplex if he wants to. He can see, he can see from this right here, by adding those up, that's how many device plates he's got to order. Without opening up the bid, without diving into it, because once he really gets the job, he's not going to the bid a whole lot once he gets ready to order this stuff. So he can take my drawings, he can order his device plates. That's why we kind of started to label things in a very, very organized fashion. He can get all his receptacle covers that are quads, GFIs. Kind of helped out that process with the PMs and, everything that they've got going on. Well, this thing ends at 3:45. It's 3:40. It's about all I got. Anybody's got any questions, or again, deal with me? Thanks for your time. Hope you guys learned and picked something up. I didn't really expect everyone in here to be so familiar with doing electronic takeoffs, but hey, hopefully you picked up something.
3 years.